Okay, this is the slideshow for 3-6. If you missed class, I think Xavier, you were the only one. And before we begin, I just want to let you know that we have there's no class tomorrow on Thursday, and but there will be a homework piece that I will send out today because I want to show you how to use the program Safaria to look up different Jewish texts, specifically Talmud, and kind of see how that can also be a great resource for when you are studying and getting ready to present your Talmud, your own individual Talmud piece for the end of the semester. So we looked at Rabbi Yirmiyah yesterday in a few different settings. The first was we looked at him obviously doing this, making this teku, and this was all Rabbi Yirmiyah set up. Here's his name. Where is it? Ba'u Rabbi Yirmiyah. Right here, Ba'u Rabbi Yirmiyah is asking all these questions that end up being a teku. And so the question is, question number one is, how did describe kind of what did Rabbi Yirmiyah do in this case? How did he, in some way, um, uh, uh, what was his method of showing that our final decision is going to be we can't figure it out, right? How did he show it? That's question number one. And then if we look over here, question number two is we talked about this case of they're talking about own anything within this circle is owned by the person who owns this. Outside the circle, it's owned by someone else. And he asked the question, what if there was a chicken whose 1 foot was here and 1 foot was there? What is the answer? And he's kicked out of the Beit Midrash there. What is he doing there? Describe what's going on. Like, what is his technique? And is it similar to what he does with the teku? So question number two is, what's his technique? Um, and then question number three is, it similar or different than what he's doing with the teku piece? Question. And now we're going to look at this one other piece here where he says where this kind of lean after the majority. So if you remember, actually, the idea of lo bashamayim he in the Torah says, Moshe brings it up and says, don't, the Torah is not so far away. Don't think it's so far away that you're going to say, oh my goodness, it's the Torah's in heaven. I can't do it. It's too far away from me. It's not accessible to me. I can't actually engage in Torah. And Moshe is saying, don't. You actually can engage in Torah. It's not in God. It's not. It's sure. God is kind of holding on to it, but you can access it too. And then in our story about when it's Lo B'Shamayim He is said, actually they use these words. Hey God, that Torah of yours is no longer in heaven. It's actually with us. You told us it's not so far away, so we've taken it and brought it close to us, and now it's actually far away from you, but not far away from us. So in a sense, what we saw in the beginning of the year by this guy, Rabbi Daniel Boyarin, was Rabbi Yoshua transforms the verse through citation into meaning that the Torah is beyond reach, not from us, but from God. Okay, so basically, Rabbi Yeshua is transforming the verse. Now look what Rabbi Yirmiyah does in this case, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah says, I'll tell you what Rabbi Joshua means. He means that the Torah was already given at Mount Sinai. Therefore, we no longer pay attention to a bat call, a heavenly voice, because God wrote in the Torah, in the case of law, we follow the majority. But interesting enough, let's look at this verse for 1 second. It says this. It doesn't say, we would think that actually the Torah would say, in a case of law, we follow the majority. But actually, it says, you shall neither side with many to do wrong. You shall not give evil testimony to dispute, so as to lean after the majority. So actually, this verse right here, is it telling us, yes, we should follow the majority, or no, we shouldn't follow the majority? That's going to be question number 4. Yes or no to follow the majority. And so, but Rabbi Yirmiyah is interpreting this to mean, it means what? Yes or no, follow the majority. So basically, Rabbi Yirmiyah is also doing his own kind of textual cutting and interpreting without looking at the context. And so in a way, Rabbi Yirmiyah's statement is almost a commentary on something that Rabbi Joshua just did. Rabbi Joshua did this kind of taking out of context and using those words as justification. And Rabbi Yirmiyah does the same. So I guess my question um, is is that similar to what Rabbi Yirmiyah is doing in case this and case this, or is it completely different? Or what's the commonality? That's question number 6. Number 7 is what's the difference? And then my question number 8 is basically, tell me who Rabbi Yirmiyah is based upon these 3 occurrences that we see him, based upon this kind of understanding of who he is. That's question number 8. Okay, now we're back to the next part of our Talmud, talking about lost and found. So I'm introducing a new concept to you called Yeush. Yeush is despair, and it happens right before someone basically says that something is hefker. So Yeush means despair. There's a song there's a song that I presented to class about Yeush, and basically the loser is basically saying there's no way I'm ever going to find that object back. He does this act of Yeush. He despairs. He's never going to get it back, and so then he says. Then either in his mind or maybe out of his mouth, he says, "This is hefker." Same thing is happening here. The finder of the object is thinking to themselves, "Hmm, has the loser claimed that to be hefker or not?" Um, and so, or have they kind of despaired of ever finding it again? So we're going to talk now about the timing of Yeush. So there's a loser and a finder, and so there can be 3 ways that this can happen in a way. 3 ways that we can have the timing when we have a loser and a finder involved. We've got either the loser loses and then the finder finds, or we can say the loser loses and at that exact same moment the finder finds, or we can probably say the finder finds and the loser loses, but that doesn't work because the loser has to lose before the finder can find. So there are really 3 cases here. It's not number 3 doesn't work. Either it's the same moment or the loser before the finder. Because here's the case that we're going to be talking about now. We've got here's the story. There's a loser of items. He hasn't lost it yet, but at 1:30 he has there's a hole in his jeans and he loses $2. We've got a finder on the scene, but that finder hasn't found this at this point. So we're still kind of moving on, moving on, moving on. And the finder at 3 o'clock finds the money on the ground. Look what I found, right? It's 3 o'clock now. It was lost at 1:30. It's 3 o'clock now. But the loser has lost this, but the loser doesn't know yet that he's lost it. Okay, the finder goes and buys a latte with or coffee with those $2. The finder at 4 o'clock, the loser says, "Hey, there's a coffee shop. Time for my caffeine fix." And he reaches for his money. Oh no, there's a hole in my jeans. The $2 is gone. I'll never get that money back because I don't have a sign on it in some way. Oh well, it's hefker now. So he does Yeush here, and he declares it ownerless. But here's the question: his moment of Yeush is far later than the finder who found the money. The finder found the money at 3 o'clock. The Yeush of the loser happens at 4 o'clock. So what's going on between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock? Is the finder Has the finder basically stolen, or is the finder okay in taking that object? That's question number 10. Can the finder take that and feel like it's rightfully hers or his, or is the finder stolen? That's question 11. And so, what makes this really interesting is and then I guess question number 11 is why justify your reasoning. And I guess what's really interesting here is the loser is in the end going to say that this item is hefker. He's going to do Yeush, but at 3 o'clock when it was found, he hadn't yet done Yeush. He hadn't yet declared this is hefker, even though that money was found and was used. All of a sudden, it's a full hour until this guy actually does declare it. So is the finder right in being able to use the money, or must the finder wait until actually Yeush it happens and Hefker is said? Or is the finder okay knowing that, well, once that owner knows that it's going to be gone, he will declare it. He will declare Hefker, and I can use it. So the idea is Yeush in some way retroactive? Okay, and maybe look up the word retroactive and what it means, because that's going to be helpful for us right here. Because the term that's going to be used in the Talmud is Yeush Shelo Midat. Is there Yeush even though the loser does not yet know that that object is gone, right? So because he does it at 4 o'clock, does it kind of revert back to 3 o'clock? Is it as if he yeushed at 3 o'clock and declared it hefker? And that's really going to be our question. And we've got a machloket. We've got two rabbis who say two different things. Rav is going to say one thing. Abaye is going to say another thing. And let's just look at our text here. What Rob Abaye is going to say: no, there's no such thing as Yeush Shalom Midat. That's not Yeush. And Rava says, yes, actually, this is Yeush. Now, I happen to know that in all cases where Rava and Abaye fight with each other, and they fight with each other a lot, we always follow Rava except for 6 cases. So the question is this our question about Yeush Shalom Midat, is that one of the 6 cases? And that's what we're going to be exploring. The next thing the Talmud does is it limits the scope of their agreement. It asks the question, what is it actually that Rava and Abaye are arguing about? And so it says, well, would Rava and Abaye argue, have a machloket about a piece of money that has a siman on it, like MM? And the Gemara says, no, that's not, because the person would never have Yeush. They would never give up the idea of finding it because they know it had a siman. They know they can go back and be tested and get that money back. And then the Talmud also asks, what about if something did have a siman, but I saw it being washed away? And I would and shouldn't I, even in those cases when it's washed away by the stream, shouldn't I actually say that that's a that is a case of Yeush? And should we don't have a problem with that? And the Gemara is going to say, you're right, we don't have a problem with that. So what is our one case of Yeush? Ki plige b'davar she'ein bo siman, something that doesn't have a symbol. And that's really where we got to for the day. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually explore with a whole bunch of tashmas, which mean come and hear a attempt to clarify this from a greater Mishnah or a Braita. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be looking at our Mishnah itself that said all these things. If you find it, you can have it because it doesn't have a siman. And we're going to see if all these things can be proof that actually not Abaye is correct, but Rava is correct. And why might these Mishnah pieces, is question number 16, why might this Mishnah prove that actually that Rava and not Abaye is correct? That's your last question of the day, and there's your video.